Hello and welcome to another episode of Alternate Future of Adizzpro's WICSO. If you haven't watched the last episodes, I recommend you watch them. At least watch the last two because this is World War VII and you're going to want to know how it started. But anyway, let's get right into it because I don't have a lot to say. And we can look at Caspia, where their front lines are just collapsing. Their soldiers don't want to fight anymore. And their front lines are just breaking down. And after Mesopotamia almost reaches their capital, they are going to go ahead and leave the war. And Mesopotamia is fine with this. Now they can shift their focus to elsewhere. Like the Russians, which are beating back pretty heavy and almost kick Mesopotamia out of Russia. But the Russians do make a very big move, and they will meet up with the Caspian Sea, which will be a problem for Mesopotamia. So we do have Mesopotamia gaining some and losing some, but they are at least gaining on the Persian front, and they're pushing back the Lime team. And over here in Bangladesh, it is it's doing alright, but we see each side gain land. But overall, the democratic Bangladesh will start to take out the neo-authoritarian Bangladesh. And eventually, India will just send their forces directly in and occupy parts of Bangladesh, as they now start to steamroll through Bangladesh and get closer and closer to South China. And so there's now only one Bangladesh, but India is occupying half of it. But now we can turn attention elsewhere. We can turn to France, where we see that their government is officially reset up, and this will help the Dutch and the Southern Iberians to refocus on other front lines. But over here in the Balkans, this United Balkan country is pushing back this blue country, and it is proving to be a problem. But we now see that both of these countries actually unite into one. So I'll just color them purple for now. But they unite into one, which will help them out. The Balkans do push back and recapture, or more like capture, the capital of this former blue country. And it seems that the Star Alliance and the Unitarians are doing a good job at securing their victory, or, well, not really victory yet, but at least pushing back. And now, take a look over here in South America, where Brazil will continue pushing into Colombia, and they will continue doing a good job at destroying Colombia. And it's at this point that the Circle Alliance has made up their mind, and they will throw the idea at Colombia and basically say that if they want to leave the Star Alliance and enter the Circle Alliance, once again, the Circle Alliance will enter the World War as a separate party, and Colombia will accept that so that they can fight with their South American allies, or at least what used to be allies, but now they're allies again. And the Circle Alliance will declare war on Brazil. And Brazil is not doing too good. Their military doesn't want to fight, And as these countries, all these countries in the Circle Alliance now going full force at just them and trying to get as much land as possible, it's looking like that. It's just looking like they're not going to survive very long. And all of these countries are doing great work in pushing them back. They're all working together, basically as one unified military, even though it is colored, different colors. But they will start to reliberate Colombia now, and at this point, Brazil knows it's their end, as a bunch of their soldiers will begin to give up and head north, and they will just break off. And they have a new idea for Brazil. They want to basically have it as kind of like a Holy Roman Empire, but kind of different. So broken up, but kind of also in one union. And the Circle Alliance supports this. And so the Brazilian Union, which is not communist, will, I say that because it has union in its name, and sometimes communist countries have union in their name, but they will gain a lot of support by the people of Brazil, and Brazil will begin to collapse. This government that was just set up is just already almost gone, and with all these countries pushing into Brazil, it will become easier and easier due to Brazil going into almost full-on collapse as this new government takes charge of most of the land. And they are also in support of the Circle Alliance. So this is not like another party. It's basically just in the Circle Alliance. Colombia will zoom in and take some land. And from here, the Union of Brazil will defeat the actual government. And the Dutch will take this opportunity to offer peace to South America. And basically, they declare that they are not going to liberate Brazil. And, because that's one less front to worry about. But Brazil also now cannot supply any of their allies. But that is South America out of the war. And, yes, that is, yet again, the Circle Alliance is not involved in World War VII. But now the Unitarians in Canada have got their military together, and they are pushing back, and they relink their two little groups over here. But America will still hold on to these areas, but the Canadian Unitarians are pushing back. But now we can look somewhere else. We look at the Farmers Union, where they will push back Russia in a very big pushback, and they will send a very big part of their military here to try and distract Russia, so that Mesopotamia can push back. And it is working, as they actually, surprisingly, near the capital of Russia, and Russia will pull a bunch of their forces back from the Mesopotamian front, and they will, unfortunately for them, lose all of their gained land in Mesopotamia, and Mesopotamia will now push back and take a bunch of land from Russia. But on this side, Russia will now push back a lot, and they will actually push the Farmers Union all the way out of Russia. And the Farmers Union's military, or the Farmers Union's military, that doesn't sound right, but their military will begin to collapse as they just lose motivation, and Russian forces will quickly sweep in, nearing their capital as the battle will start, which will be the bloodiest battle the Farmers Union has seen in this war so far, and they will lose their capital, and it basically spells defeat for the Farmers Union, and then kind of the entire Balkans in the the Star Alliance, because their protector has just fallen, and now the Purple Croatian country is pushing back, and they're pushing back rapidly, and almost have captured the capital city of this Balkan country, and it's going really, really bad for the Star Alliance. But elsewhere they have had great success, just like the success they will be having in the Mediterranean country, as Egyptian forces will push into not Mesopotamia. They'll push into the Mediterranean country and fight a very short battle for their capital, and the Mediterranean country will push back, and Egypt is not doing too good, as they will lose all their gained land over here, and they will also lose the capital of this country over here, and the military forces scrambled over here will retreat back to Egypt, and the front line will now stay, and we can look once again elsewhere. We now see Orange Africa over here on the coast join the war on the Diamond Alliance side, and we also see Mesopotamian troops just start to flood into Russia even quicker than they were before, as they almost reach Crimea, and they began to go along the Black Sea coast and down into Crimea, as the Russian Navy is pretty obliterated over here, and most of it is now gone. But both Mesopotamia and Russia's navy over here in the Black Sea are very worn out. Mesopotamia will now launch an offensive in the Balkans, mostly with troops they were using for the Green Team, and it will almost recapture the Farmer Union's capital, but shortly after, Russian troops will cut off a very big portion of the Farmers Union, and it will fall, leading to the recapturing of the capital and the complete obliteration of the Farmers Union, as now Russian troops will flood in to this country and support their Croatian ally. Are these the same color? Almost. Well, Crete, I'm gonna color them a lighter color. This Crete is going to also fall, and with it, the Russian or the European part of this Russian area in would be like Constantinople, or not. I mean, it used to be Constantinople, but Istanbul. Yeah. So the Mesopotamians have just a lot of fronts to worry about. They have the Egyptian front, the Balkan naval front, the Russian front, and the Persian front. But they have still nailed down some of the ones like the Green front, that used to be pretty dangerous. But there is a lot of naval fronts too. There's a big naval front right here. There's a naval front right here. One right here. Probably even some over here. but it's seeming kind of mixed on who is going to be the true victor of this war, as both alliances have knocked out key members, and the Mesopotamians will now put a very big chunk of their military over here, and they begin to advance towards Russia, as they hope that they can just go right up and somehow capture the capital of Russia, forcing them to surrender. But it's not going to be that easy, because the winter sets in, and after that, the Mesopotamians have not given their soldiers proper winter clothes, and the front line will come crumbling back, and it is very, very bad. The Mesopotamians lose a bunch of ground in Russia, but they are, luckily for them, gaining ground in Persia, and now even pushing into Persindia, which is very, very big for them. South China has now put almost their full military over here fighting in Bangladesh, and it is doing wonders against the Persindian one. And the front line will stay very kind of, it won't move a lot beyond this. And the Japanese, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Manchurians, the Indonesians, the Filipinos, they all are going to help out South China, but they will retain a good amount of their military in their home countries just in case something happens. Like, Persindia somehow knocks out South China, which will probably not happen, but, just in case. But the front line over here with Russia is now going back and forth again, as after winter, the Mesopotamians have now pushed back and are, pushing back a lot, but then the Russians will once again push back, and the Mesopotamians will pull troops from this front to fight Persindia, as they hope now they can knock out Persindia as quickly as possible and then focus on Russia. But who knows how that is actually going to work. But we now see America push back, and they go up into Michigan and cut Canada Unitary Supply into two. They reach into real-life Canada and will now push back. But the Canadian Unitarians will pull off a very surprising attack over here. They will just continue going down the coast, and they will reach the American capital, and they will capture it. And this is very surprising, because no one knows how they just did it. But we do know that America didn't properly supply over here, and this leads to them pulling back a lot of forces from over here to fight and push back, which they will do, recapturing their capital. But it still shocks even the Dutch for a moment, because if their allies fall, then they know they cannot stand, all of these powers together. They would quickly get wiped out. But now we take a look over at the African front, where the Mediterranean country is pushing back and starts to relate. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk. They start to re-liberate Libya, and they will recapture the capital and reset up the government, and they will begin to push back. But actually, this is a little too much of this color, so I'm actually going to make it just a brighter shade of Libya's color, so it's more balanced. But it is also all of these guys over here fighting too, including the Orange Africans, and so they will begin to push back, and they'll push pretty heavily into Egypt, but Egypt will have a very good counteroffensive pushing back. But the front line will now remain as this, and nothing happens for a while. There's just a lot of fighting, and not a lot happens. You know, all the front lines are pretty steady, other than, you know, a few tiny counteroffensives here and there on each front, which typically result in, you know, kind of just nothing, because then the other party pushes back. But yeah, it stays pretty steady. But the Mesopotamians are still advancing into Prasindia. They're going slower now, but they are picking up the pace a little bit. And they've captured quite a few major cities. But then something will spell defeat for one side. And, I mean, I guess not really officially spell defeat, but it will lead for, it will be a very big event, and it will shock a lot of countries, and practically spell defeat for one side, even though it might not be immediate, and that is the entrance of China into the war. And they will enter the war on the side of the neo-authoritarians, not the Star Alliance. And this will lead for a huge defeat, because South China is now terrified. They had most of their military over here. And also on top of this, Vietnam has just joined the neo-authoritarian side as well, as I might have actually already colored it in. No, but their government, midway through the war, has flipped over to a neo-authoritarian dictatorship. And following this, we see South China just pull a bunch of their forces out of Bangladesh, leading to a humongous pushback very, very fast within the matter of not long. I'm not really good at time frames, but following this, China will capture the capital and push back very much, and they will capture most of north-south China. That, if you didn't know what this country was called, that wouldn't make any sense, but actually it might, but I don't know. But Vietnam, what is this? Why is that there? That's weird. Why is that not one color? I don't know what that is. That's weird. Anyway, Vietnam will now push back, as they have a huge sense of nationalism. I don't know what this is. And they will just capture most of they'll capture southern South China, and China will finish the job, as they now remain on Taiwan, and they will probably, their government will probably remain there. But this is a huge defeat for the Star Alliance. But Northeast Asia Unitaria, actually also call it East Asia Unitaria, they had plans to invade China. They don't like China, as we know, and they will begin to just stroll right through northern China using very good warfare tactics to just blitz through a bunch of major cities, and they reach this peninsula, and it's very, very bad for China. I can get all these discolored pixels. I don't know why there's so many discolored pixels, but yeah, they will blitz through northern China. As South China is still falling, so do keep that in mind. But China will also push back. They're not just going to stand around and let this happen. And so they'll push back. And they'll pull most of their forces up here to deal with it. And now we can see, looking over at the Americas, the Americans are pushing into modern-day Wisconsin with great motivation, but the Canadian Unitarians are advancing into America on other fronts. And it's kind of mixed who's going to win here. I mean, Canadian Unitaria is definitely pushing back more, and they're stronger. So, you know, they've now pushed the Americans back some. But the Dutch are still heavily supplying the Americans. But yeah, so now we can take a look over here at Russia, where the Mesopotamians will have their last great stride into Russia, as they will capture the Crimean Peninsula, but they don't get as far as they hoped to, and they will quickly be repelled out of all of Russia, which leads to the front lines beginning to fall for Mesopotamia Unitaria. And the Green, or Caspia, will now re-enter the war, which is bad for Mesopotamia Unitaria. And they will begin to push back the front lines, as now they can't do that because the Mesopotamians didn't really have a bunch of troops on this front. And even worse, now with Persia not in Bangladesh and focused elsewhere, they are sending their forces full force right at Persia and have pushed them back. And they're now starting to once again advance into Persia, and their pushback is very grand, as they push the Mesopotamians almost all the way out of Persia, and the Caspians will connect up with them once again. And the Mesopotamians are feeling very overwhelmed, as now their ally in Egypt is not feeling the motivation they once had, and their military is beginning to give up, and they're being pushed back heavily. And yeah, that's actually going to do it for today's video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode, well, actually I'll see you in the next video, and then in another video, then in the next episode, where we take a look at the ending of World War VII. I know it's going to be the ending, and there is still a chance, maybe, that the Unitarians could win. So, but anyway, yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.